This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 3rd of October 2019, and I am DM.
I am JM.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, Murumbi land ownership row haunts Ruto.
Wow.
Governors probe bribery claims rock Senate PAC. And in the Standard, Kenyans hold on to 7 billion shillings in old notes. Wow. So in the Daily Nation, firstly, who is Murumbi?
Murumbi is only the second vice president of the Republic of Kenya. Yeah, after Oginga Odinga.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who may not know.
I'm sure there is.
Yes.
But if you did 844, right, these are some of the questions that came up. Who was the second vice president of Kenya?
Important.
No, there were worse questions. Who's the chief of your location? Anyway.
Well, Ruto's back in the headlines. That's what we're seeing for sure.
Yeah,
He's never left.
He is under siege.
He's under siege, and this time it's actually a lobby group called Trusted Society of Human Rights that submitted a letter to the DCI, copied to the DPP, accusing the deputy president of irregularly acquiring land that was originally owned by the former vice president Murumbi in Transmara. 900 acres.
Gosh, I mean, it's obvious that there's some sort of stickiness when it comes to Ruto with land and with corruption.
Absolutely. Yeah,
which is what actually makes me think that there's a scheme going on here, right? I think because he's come out very clearly and very early on about his 2022 ambitions, his political opponents are working very hard to discredit him.
The onslaught is strong,
it's real
and heavy, and they've realized
it's not going to stop.
Yeah, I think they've realized his Achilles heel is corruption in general, but land in particular. And so the mud
is beginning to stick.
Well, I hope justice prevails in the end for whoever. We have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines. We ask ourselves whether it is topical or speculative, whether it is repetitive or groundbreaking, and whether it is thoughtful or just plain lazy. I find this quite thoughtful. I think a lot of people don't know the ins and outs of the transactions. They're quite dizzying to actually listen. I'm even confused when I was reading it. So
we park it
for now.
All right.
In the Star, governors probe bribery claims rock Senate PAC. So this is the Public Accounts and Investment Committee. And so they've been apparently petitioning governors for bribes, which range from 2 million shillings to 20 million shillings, so that they can look at your audited reports in a friendly way.
manner.
But a lot of people have come out and said, you know what, we've had it. The Roraka land saga, Boro was like, listen, they want this amount of money, but
100 million shillings they wanted from you.
He refused to play ball. But however, Kajwang has a point. If you're going to make a complaint, you need to actually formalize it and actually, let's move forward, not just saying things in the papers.
Look, my interpretation of what Kajwang, I see as his response as very defensive. And it just reminds me of one thing. A rumor denied
is confirmed.
Is a rumor confirmed. Is a rumor confirmed. So I'm not saying whether they're guilty or not of asking for bribes, but it seems very suspicious. What he should have done, if you're accused, open yourself up for investigation. Just don't invite in words to be investigated, but also in action.
Allow me to go to church for a second. I pray for the day when we have politicians who value their citizens more than their pockets.
Amen. The church says amen.
Amen to that.
What about the headline?
The headline is okay. I would say it's topical. It's also lifting the veil of ignorance. But also, uncovering.
Thoughtful.
It's thoughtful.
Okay.
So
then we park it for a bit.
Park it, but we're parking too many.
and here we've got Kenyans hold on to 7 billion shillings in old notes. So this is in reference to the demonetization exercise.
So we no longer have the old 1,000 notes.
Precisely.
My only thing is, I was not sure what the parameters of CBK
success.
Did they have a threshold?
Was there a threshold? Was it to combat illicit money?
96% of the 1,000 notes in circulation have actually been recovered.
They've been recovered.
Right? And so the deficit is of about 4% is now the 7 billion shillings. And what they're saying is that because this money was not in circulation in the first place,
it shouldn't affect the economy.
It won't dent the economy.
Also 7 billion in comparison to a population of 50 million, it's not a lot, is it?
It's not a lot of money, precisely.
It's the stuff you left in your jacket.
Yeah, 150 more.
Yeah, it comes to 150 per person.
Well, all this wahala just so that we can change the notes? Because that was in the Constitution. I mean...
Well, but you see, if you're the president, you don't waste an opportunity. This is an opportunity to also demonstrate your fight against corruption. All right, well, it's 7 billion. It's no longer legal tender, so you can use it for whatever.
You know what? I think they're all relatively all right headlines.
I would go with the Daily Nation.
So would I.
Yeah. Oh, so we're unanimous today.
Well done, guys. So the Daily Nation gives us our winning headline. Onto the political pieces, what we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria that we use. We ask ourselves whether it is humorous or dry, whether it is satirical or pessimistic, and whether it is effective or just plain lazy.
Yes.
So we started here with Kaso.
Kaso here has drawn us a snail, known as Likoni Recovery Response, and there's a diver on it. Saying help will be there in no time. That's in reference again to the Kenya Ferry Services disaster over the weekend.
And I suppose this is a real depiction of what happened.
But no disrespect to the people, it's a bit of a tired cartoon.
A bit tired, but heads should definitely roll on this one.
But let's
the head of KFS. Go home. I think we tossed that one, though.
Not so.
All right.
Inspiring.
What do we have here?
This made me giggle. Here we have Aisha Juma in her spectacular blue suit. And she's wearing gold bangles or yellow bangles and yellow shoes. And she's inside what looks like a compass. And it says, "My political true north is..." And she's pointing. On one side we have Raila, and on the other side we have a crying Ruto. This made me laugh. This really made me laugh. However, for me, if I were her, I would keep playing coy about who it is, or you think it's cheeky? I know you had a different opinion.
Yeah, but then also the context is, from yesterday, because Jeanette came out and told us that she's returned, the prodigal daughter has returned to the ODM fold.
And called it the road to Damascus moment.
For her, which is, I think, from our interpretation yesterday, it is quite untrue. She looks like she was accosted on the corridor, minding her own business.
And she denied it, actually.
And she denied it. So it's actually quite cowardly of Jeanette to speak on behalf of somebody who is not present and declare her intentions. They're not.
However, strategy-wise, if I were her, the referendum could be a game changer. I would hold my cards close, and see what to do.
I personally think that she is being propped up to be more important than she is.
Than she actually is.
Is she really that important?
She could be. Joho is a term 2. Joho is a term 2 governor. So Coast is also lacking its kingmaker in many ways. Maybe she's going to step into the limelight.
Okay, so maybe if you put it in that context. Maybe if you put it in that context. But I think it's a good cartoon, visually appealing.
Yes, so I quite like it. I think we
put it in the bay as we consider the other one.
Yes.
All right.
So in the Star?
So in the Star, we have the Donald.
Yes, we've gone to America.
And, he's been drawn really bloated.
Yeah.
And the caption says, "It's just blown out of proportion." He's got a whistle, which is going into his tummy, blowing air, blowing the impeachment, air in there. And this is in reference to the perhaps the impeachment that might be coming in a few weeks.
Such an awkward cartoon to describe.
Yeah, but the Donald is drawn very well here by Ozone. It's very visually appealing. But impeachment doesn't always lead to the removal of a president. They would still need to have the majority of votes in the House. And
as I think it was Ozone himself who told us that Trump is the Teflon guy. Nothing sticks.
Nothing sticks. Exactly. So can we say our winning cartoon is from the Daily Nation?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Daily Cartoon. And what is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. The book is Startup Nation, the story of Israel's economic miracle, and it's by Dan Senor and Sol Singer. So Senor is an American-Canadian columnist, writer, and political advisor. He's advised the Iraqi government, and he's also been a political advisor to a former presidential candidate in America, Mitt Romney. And Sol Singer is the editor, or was the editor, at the Jerusalem Post. So this book is about innovation and entrepreneurship, but this time we're not talking about a person, we're talking about an entire nation as well. The country of Israel and how it came to embody both these things, innovation and entrepreneurship. And the book answers the following question, a very interesting question. How is it that Israel, a country of 7.1 million people, I think now at the time of writing the book, now there are 8.7 million people, only 60 years old, just 10 years older than independent Kenya, surrounded by enemies, in a constant state of war since its founding, with no natural resources, produces more startup companies than large, peaceful and stable nations like Japan, India, Korea, the United Kingdom, and, believe it or not, China, a country of over 1 billion people. Yes. So the reasons behind Israel's remarkable economic success, according to this book, can be found in its history, its culture, and geopolitics. So the book answers, the answers that the authors have given is what we're going to discuss, explore today. And I'll talk about one thing. That is the assertiveness and informality, that assertiveness and informality shape the national ethos of Israel. Israel has a culture of doubt and argument, and that's what they say contributes to how it's very innovative and enterprising. So the biggest reason, they say, is the people's mentality. Israel people live in a culture of rebelliousness, informality, and assertiveness. So in 2008, the chairman, or I think the MD of PayPal, we talked about PayPal yesterday, a tech company, came to Israel and acquired a company called Fraud Sciences. Now, PayPal, for those who don't know, is an online payment service. And Fraud Sciences was a group that combated online fraud, as the name suggests. So the MD then, Scott Thompson, said that the first meeting that he had in Israel with Fraud Sciences really took him aback and impressed him, because the people in the meeting were not afraid to be very honest, ask questions, and challenge PayPal, this big company, challenge their methods on how they were combating fraud. So the employees were very unintimidated and openly challenged PayPal's positions. So what this guy was witnessing is what the Israelis call chutzpah. It's spunk, or it's a Hebrew word meaning cheeky or audacious, audacity. So to Israelis, chutzpah is the norm, whether at home or in school. People learn that assertiveness is welcome and expected. So, and why are Israelis like this? One way that the authors describe, or one thing the authors attribute this quality to, is their rabbinic culture. So rabbis would have debates with people about the Torah or the law, and people were encouraged to give their own interpretations and to challenge the holy book.
Why should you follow the commandments?
Absolutely, and give their open-minded interpretations of it. And so this is...
and just before you go, Faith, this reminds me of another book which must be read against this book that we're reviewing today. And it's known as The Jewish Phenomenon, written by Stephen Silberger. And in that book, he lists about 7 principles that underscore Jewish success. And one of them is, and this actually answers the question you're asking, why do they have so many startups? It's because Jews, as the Jewish people, they believe you have an 8 to 5, but you must also have an after 5 job. Right? So yes, get into a profession, but also seek to do enterprise, seek to be like a self-entrepreneur.
And we saw that with Phil Knight in Shoe Dog, right? He took his accounting job, but his passion job was the shoes, and he did that after hours.
So most Jews you will come across have a side hustle after 5 p.m. if they are employed.
That's good advice even for Kenyans. So what I took away was what he calls the battlefield entrepreneur. So this is because a lot of Israelis are that's word. It is compulsory for them to join the army. And so he says that this gives them a culture of, a flat system, firstly, because once they join the army, the youngest commander is 23 years old. And this 23-year-old is in command of 100 people. 100 people, surgeons, everybody, and they also have ammunition, grenades, rifles, and they have the obligation to execute these missions and to do them without going to the top. So a 23-year-old is able to command a unit.
Wow. And apparently they deliberately understaff the senior ranks in the military so that the army can continue being innovative.
Exactly. So it's often a very bottom-up system in the Israeli Defense Force. So the Israeli relies a lot on these reserve forces. Like you said, it's a country of 8.7 million now. So unlike other armies in the country where you can have people do army jobs only, these guys double up. And so he says hierarchy is diminished when taxi drivers can command millionaires. Because when you join the army, there's no, it doesn't matter what you do, you are the job. And 23-year-olds can train their uncles, their older uncles, right?
Try talking back to your grandmother.
Exactly. So the reserve system sort of helps reinforce this anti-hierarchy method. And this is what you see from the war room, from when they're at war to when they're in boardrooms. And that's why you would find that they would face the PayPal CEOs
and
be
tell
able
them to
question
face what they think about his company.
As small as they were and as big as PayPal was. And so the book points out the Israeli economic miracle is in part largely due to cross-disciplinary creativity. So the Israeli military and defense forces invest a lot in innovation. But it also spills out into other industries in Israel, right? And the questioning of authority is obviously there, challenging the obvious and debating everything. And they also innovate. So every technology that comes in from the US, so all the weapons and whatever, when they get to the IDF, their first job is to how can we make this better, right? And we've seen how big military Mossad is in the world, right?
Precisely.
And then in large part, the military culture comes from what you were saying, this debating thing, the Judaism. Their religious background has allowed them to be able to question even people who are higher up in ranks. So this was something I took out of it, and I also thought it was key because they said as a lower command, you were able to tell your higher in command that you don't agree with what they do, which is unheard of in any other army system in the world.
Because armies are about hierarchy and command.
And this is something that is sort of exclusive to the Israeli Defense Forces. Lastly, the book recommends that each country have a national youth service, voluntarily or not. And NYS came to mind. And the idea there is to sufficiently challenge and give young people leadership, teamwork, and mission-oriented skills and experience. So that's what the young Israelis get from their military service. And that's why when they come into the startups, they treat it like it is war. You know, we must succeed, we must survive. And it increases social solidarity, and you're doing something bigger than yourself. Yes.
Do you think that would work in Kenya?
I think it could. I think it could. But Daniel Arap Moi tried it in the 1980s.
When it was mandatory.
But he realized that when he took people into these camps and he gave them paramilitary training, when they came back out to do the strikes as a university, they were, they were like 10 times harder than the police. So they were a match for the police.
And they got the wrong skills.
They got the wrong skills. So they were focusing on the physical instead of the mental. But you see, the other factor that we don't have in Kenya is that the Israelis are surrounded by enemies. So you grow up knowing that we have to band together, and then you also have this very nationalistic outlook for country first, and I will put down my arms. But then also when they're at war, who is left to do any economic work?
Let me just get into a bit of history before we close, right? And in chapter 6 of this book, the author basically recounts how the economic miracle happened. And so he talks about two critical things. One was the kibbutz system, and the person who implemented that system, David Ben Gurion. Ben Gurion was the founding father of Israel, right? And so the interesting thing about Ben Gurion is similar to a lot of founding fathers. He was actually not known as Ben Gurion. He was known as David Gurion. But when he moved to Israel from Poland in 1906, he decided to, give himself a fresh name. So he named himself Ben Gurion from a Jew from the Roman period.
Fresh start.
So Ben Gurion, was this very hardcore, pragmatist kind of guy. And they've got a name for that. They call them the Bitsuits. Right? A Bitsuits is somebody who is a pragmatist, somebody who doesn't take no for an answer, who is resourceful, who is impatient, who is an effective manager.
You want to get stuff done.
Right?
So he's a Bitsowitz with chutzpah.
Yeah, precisely. And so what the author says in this book is that to be a successful startup founder, you've got to have some of these Bitsowitz attributes qualities, to succeed, right? Yeah. To just persevere and keep on the path so that you can succeed. Yeah. Now, when he set up the country, right? He insisted we have to use the kibbutz model.
What's a kibbutz?
Right, and so kibbutz is basically it basically means a gathering. Okay. But basically, it's an agricultural settlement which was dedicated and is still dedicated to abolishing private property and ensuring that there's complete equality within the community.
So it's a community.
So it's a community, precisely. And in those kibbutzes have come a lot of innovations in the agricultural sector.
Yes.
Drip irrigation in fact, the year 1965.
In fact, you get a lot of Kenyan missions going there to learn how to use.
Which is ironic because they're a desert, basically.
Yeah, they're desert. So 95% of the country is arid, semi-arid, or hyper-arid, meaning no rainfall at all. Yeah. Here in the DRC, there's places that rain for 10 months of the year. 300 days of rainfall, and they're still poor, right? So maybe as you're suggesting, maybe the point is for you to be a successful nation. Two things. Yes. You be surrounded by enemies so that you're always on your toes. And you be a country that has nothing in terms of resources.
So the enemy is complacent.
So that you make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what we see in Israel, and I think that's what we're going to see with Rwanda in the next 15 years.
I see it too.
Since you guys came from Rwanda, you've been preaching the gospel.
And you see they're surrounded also by hostile neighbors on some sides, right? So it's forced them to come together as well.
Yeah, and their history is also their enemy.
Yeah. Well, on a day where we had a winning headline, or a double actually, winning headline and a winning cartoon from the Daily Nation, I want to leave you with this. Israeli leadership saw that entrepreneurship needed to be Israel's central comparative advantage. That's why you see so many startups. Yeah. And entrepreneurship in many countries can be the main engine of growth for economies to evolve and generate. All this was possible for Israel because of their mindset. They're Jewish, chutzpah. And for us African countries, we must push this. We must push this past the offering of simple reforms and cause a revolution and a renewing of the mind, and also get an entrepreneurial mindset. Yeah. And as the former Israeli Prime Minister said, the most important thing is to dare.
Wow.
Yes. So please subscribe to our channel and find us on TV as well. We're on GoTV, StarTimes, and
Pang Free to Air.